All right, we are recording. I don't know how Zoom works because I'm 65. So if it
I'm
if it
just like
stops the
really,
recording,
I'm like really mature for my age, and
I'm like really
don't,
old. I'm not of this
don't know how to
time.
mold jokes.
I don't know
And
how
I'm
to
really
do.
old.
I don't know how to do what I gotta do. So I'm gonna just blame it on my age and not take responsibility for my lack of.
My toes.
You want to explain that to the peoples?
Yeah, sure. So if you're on video or if you're on audio, I'm just showing my toes. And that's no, but I have these like toe splay thingies. It's just like silicone that I put in between my toes to make them like splay, to put them apart. Because well, that's how feet naturally are, right? Babies all have splayed feet, and a lot of indigenous people even have like their toe, like their big toe even almost looks like a thumb. That's how like out it goes. So spread your thumb or spread your hand, right? That's almost how their toe looks.
Is that the best way for your toes to be?
It's just healthy, yeah. Because the reason people's toes or feet become so like deformed, or like people like have flat feet and think it's genetics.
Feet
I mean,
really
sure,
do be
it's
looking ugly.
genetics, but it's a genetic expression of the environment, and that's what's causing that genetic expression. Is it's the environment. It's not like you're born with flat feet. We're not. Maybe like some anomalies, but generally, like 99.9% of people are not, and we're supposed to have healthy arches and splayed feet because that's how we're like the feet is our first contact to the ground. So for good balance, good like mechanics, that is the way it should be. And I think for the toe splay, it's just if you do want to like go back into the natural like like splayed feet, it's more comfortable too, and it circulates more blood flow to your feet. Like you've seen LeBron James's feet, like those things are ugly, dude. Like his pinky toe is like on top of the other one, and they're all just like cramped. Like they don't look like they're having a good time.
He plays a crazy ass sport too. I don't know.
Well, I don't know if it's because the sport. I think it's the shoes, because the shoes like cramp your toes inside of them, and like just the shape of the shoes aren't the shape of your feet, right?
All right, 1 second. Let me because I want to pull up my notes and I'm gonna put on this thing. I don't know if it's gonna end the recording, so if it does, we'll just restart just in case. Well, why do you think niggas stop making feet like that? Why do you think they stopped? Like, why do you think shoes have been designed the way they're designed?
Well, first thing that comes to mind is like dress shoes, right? Like the pointy, like.
So it's like the beauty aspect kind of overrode. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aesthetic got the priority.
And also just like comfort, like quote unquote comfort, right? Because like Nike came out with the Air Max and like the soles, right? And then they got Jordan to wear it. And then now everybody's wearing it because it's Jordan. It's a Jordan shoe, and it's fucking like, it's cool. It's cool to own it. And then people aren't taught. I mean, no one's taught, right? No one's taught this stuff. So they're just not aware that the shoes that they're wearing is detrimental to their feet health and inevitably their whole system, because your feet ground you. And any compromises made at the feet, there are going to be compensations made by the body up the chain, no matter what. Because that's how your body adapts. Because we're resilient, that happens.
Well, that's a little prelude.
Yeah.
Let's switch to actual real topic.
Action.
But honestly, to me, the entire thing is just based on Nick's video. Because like oh my God, that's a great segue. Because he fucking...
Yeah, because Nick is the founder of the Foot Collective.
Oh yeah. So I'll link the video, but he basically just has a video. And we're kind of late on this, but it's probably like a month ago when the lockdown got...
I mean, truly, we're like 10 months late because
the
pandemic started a while ago.
Yeah, but
I mean, I'm glad that we did now. We chose to do it now because a lot of information has come out, and we've had time to digest it.
And also, things are starting to reopen soon too. So we want to it's very interesting to see what's going to happen. Because
things are last time, there's like
tried.
Sorry, go ahead.
Last time we tried to reopen, shit went bad, and then we closed again, and then are we going to keep going through the cycle until maybe people start to get vaccinated and the vaccine actually works? That we're going to keep like reopening, closing, reopening, closing, reopening, closing, or are we going to find a way to actually open shit up? But here's the thing, and that's the point. That's what we're getting to, is the whole idea of like we're actually, maybe I shouldn't get into this. Actually, no. We're outsourcing the power, and we're essentially giving it away to people who don't necessarily know more than they do, know more than we do, but they just have the authority to look like they do. So we just have this. It's actually a fallacy. Like, isn't it a fallacy?
Biggest fallacy ever, bro. Like,
whatever it's called, appeal to authority. It's one of the fucking things that I learned in philosophy class. Appeal to authority. It's like you don't even consider the argument. You just assume it's true because someone of authority said it, even though those people might not know anymore.
And then all those facts, so-called facts, are actually just fallacies.
And they're always changing. Like, always changing.
And you know what? The funny thing is, it's not necessarily changing. They're modifying it.
Yeah.
It's being modified. It's not being changed because people are like there are thousands of doctors and like very intelligent people who have actually looked into this topic. They've looked at the statistics of like the excess mortality, like hospitalizations, like suicide rates, and everything that and like happens because of the lockdowns, and like people are dying from COVID. And there is massive merit in what they're saying. And they're saying that, number one, the virus isn't as deadly as people think, or has modeled to. Like the reason we have lockdowns is based on the models, right? This many X number amount of people are going to die, and these models were 10 times off, 10x. 10 times, and we are sacrificing so much, right? People are dying of like other things. Like people are starting to worry that the lockdowns are causing more harm than the actual virus. And I think my problem, or like my frustration with that, is that like people kind of like default and say, oh, you got to save people. Like there's
a sentimentalism.
People are dying. The virus is real. Like, oh, you're like people often just default to, oh, you think the virus is fake and it's blah blah blah. Like, it's very nuanced, and I think majority of people haven't bothered or put in the effort, or they don't have the time to really go this deep into this rabbit hole of quote unquote conspiracy. Because now it's not a conspiracy anymore. Like, there are facts, and there's evidence that backs like these claims up, right?
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is that it's not being addressed. These things that are being brought up or like spoken about by thousands of doctors are not being addressed by the governments, the actual authority, which tells me that there is not enough integrity in this establishment.
Well, there's also this thing. Sorry, finish your point.
Yeah, which is like clear to us, right? It's like, I'd say most young people our age know that the establishment has no integrity, right? ACAB, all cops are bastards, blah, blah, blah. Like, you can go on and on, right? Yeah. The establishment does not have integrity. And I don't understand how, or I'm like confused, and I don't see how they don't make the connection between that and everything that's happening right now.
There's a few things. The the first is the way people got caught up in this in the first place is the fear that was produced when it first came out.
Yeah.
Right. You're in the news that it was in China, or when it blew up in Italy, you heard like there's this thing, and then people are comparing it to things that have come before, to other viruses. Could it be as bad as this? Could it be the next Black Plague? Could it be this? Could it be that? And then all the news is telling you is that like when it first came out, I think like people were like in the States, like over 2 million people could die from we gave it a lethal rate that was completely way higher. Like you said, 10x.
And every single model has been incorrect since. Every single model.
So here's the thing, though. The thing I've also been seeing also in the news is that there's a lot of ego wrapped up in how many cases each, especially in Canada, each province has. So it's almost as if provinces are competing with each other to see who could get the least cases and look the least bad to each other. Mm-hmm. So, and when people get very egotistical, they'll try to look good by any means necessary, right? So we don't do we even know if those numbers are correct? Because we also heard some shit about how if someone has COVID and dies in a car accident, it's registered as a COVID death.
Yeah.
The Centers for Disease Control have updated their death counts for coronavirus and reveal yet again that COVID-19 is rarely the actual cause of death among coronavirus patients. According to the CDC themselves, of the 220,000 deaths attributed to the coronavirus, 87,000 of them died from pneumonia and influenza. Another 17,000 died from chronic respiratory diseases, and 26,000 died from respiratory distress syndrome. 44,000 patients died from hypertensive diseases, 23,000 died from heart disease, and a whopping 28,000 died from cardiac arrest and heart failure. Yet all of these, even patients who died from heart attacks, were marked down as dying from the corona.
Not to mention that the test that's being used, or that has been used for the last 10 months, PCR, isn't reliable. Right now, they come up with a new nucleic testing, NAT, nucleic acid testing kit, which is said to be more reliable. But for the past 10 months, we've been using something that hasn't been reliable, and we've been basing everything off of this. Everything, right? Cases like, oh, this person died, that's testing for COVID, right? That's the thing that we've used, or that has been used.
But I think to me, it's not even about like picking any sides about who's right and who's wrong. It's about trying to be the most practical way, like to try and be as practical as possible so that we have the least cases possible, but that also people aren't fucking like stressed out about how they're going to keep making a living. Or some people are very like social, and now that they can't get it, it literally fucks with people's heads sometimes that they have to stay home all the time. Me, I'm a homebody. I can handle it, but some people can't. And it's crazy how some people are like, oh, well, the world doesn't revolve around those people who are social. Like people are dying and their own need to be social shouldn't overweigh people dying. But the thing is, like, there's a lack of balance in that, because people aren't dying, but like other people are getting depressed, other people's mental health
people are dying
like
from
degenerating.
Poverty, man. Like people have been dying from poverty. Like
it's like the other fucking the news thing about the homeless guy who died because the curfew thing in Quebec, where there was an 8 p.m.
in the porta potty, right?
He was he was trying to hide from cops because cops were giving fines to homeless people for being out past the curfew. Homeless people were getting fines for not finding a home at the curfew. So the guy didn't want to fine. So what did he do? He fucking was trying to find a hiding spot, ended up like sleeping in a bathroom stall, one of those public ones, the blue ones that be out in construction sites, and then literally just froze to death overnight. I'm editing right now. I'm just going to quickly correct myself. I don't think he was running away. I don't think the homeless guy was running away from the cops to not get a fine. From reading the article and like reading, because that's how I was told the story. But from reading the article just now, it's just that the authorities were not allowing shelters to accept people past a certain time, which I think is a curfew time. And I think some of them just didn't allow people to have beds in their shelters at all. So they couldn't accept that guy in the shelter. So overnight, he just had to find somewhere to sleep. And that's how it happened. He just found a porta potty, and then I guess from that is how he froze to death. Sorry, just clarifying myself. So now what do we like what about that? You know what I mean? Like what about you know.
Yeah.
So I think to me, it's not even about whether or not like lockdowns are effective, whether or not masses. It's like, why do we constantly have default into letting people make decisions for us when you as an individual have more power than you think? So the main point about what Nick was saying in the video is just like, and what you always say too, it's like, dude, oh, actually the point is right here. Assuming this virus is something that is in the air at all times, something that is part of our ecosystem because it's a virus, it has to. Oh shit! I'm getting a call. I'm gonna call later. Let me send him a message real quick. Sorry. Yo, I'm recording with Aakrist. I'm gonna call you like in maybe 30, 40 minutes. Yeah. Assuming that it's something that's in the air, which it essentially is, which is why we wear masks so it doesn't like come to us. Theoretically speaking, we don't know if it, like, of course it may not work, it may not. We've seen it work, whatever. That's a different topic. I don't care about that discussion.
Sure.
What is important is not whether, actually, I do care about that discussion. What is important?
Everything is very relevant, but I see what you mean. It's like, how do we empower ourselves?
Yeah.
And what is the best way to go about it?
What is important is not whether you're exposed to it, because you essentially always are, but how capable your body is at defending itself against it.
And I was actually thinking about this yesterday, and how like the whole like Darwinistic like survival of the fittest thing has like really driven into society that like you have to be the strongest, right? You have to there's two realities. Like survival of the fittest means the same thing as the weak become obsolete, right? It's the exact same thing. But the trajectory that each like phrase has is way different, right? So survival of the fittest, I'll just like, and it might not make sense, it's just my thought process. And I was also like trying to like, I have a bias and I'm trying to make it make sense in my head, because I mean, to me it does, and I think it's valid. So survival of the fittest kind of encourages people to protect the weak, right? Because you are the fittest and they are strong. The stronger are the fittest are strong, right? So it kind of implies like a competence at birth, in a sense, not necessarily always. So what this kind of leads to is like survival of the fittest, kill the weaker ones and you survive, but you survive alone. Whereas the weak become obsolete kind of encourages you to become stronger, right? Become strong and learn from the strong. And you gain competence from experience. And instead of killing the weak and surviving alone, you teach the weak and you learn to thrive together.
Yeah.
It encourages community.
Yeah.
So these two are even though they're like the exact same, they're diametrically opposed on the same axis.
Yeah.
And I think right now people are, I don't know, like to me it kind of, it does make sense to an extent, but to me it's like it's still survival of the fittest, right? Whereas we should be saying the weak become obsolete. So how do we become strong? Right? That to me makes more sense.
Instead of how do we run away from it?
And more practical. Yeah, exactly.
You know? Cause and that's the thing with like specifically Western way of handling shit like this is always like never get to the root. Never ever get to the root. Just fix the symptoms. Never get to the cause of the symptoms. Just fix the symptoms. You got pain. Let's numb the fucking part of your brain that registered pain for
not only
8 hours.
Not only that. This genius finds a cure for cancer or a certain disease. Let's ruin his career and suppress all of his technologies. And the funny thing is, like this has happened again and again and again in history, and people aren't taught it.
They stop making money once you stop taking the pills, once you stop taking the medication. They don't make you buy the medication. Even if insurance pays for it, you pay for insurance.
Right. You get to treat it like throughout your lifetime instead of being healed forever.
And this is not the time to get idealistic and utopian. We know how the world works. People are greedy, especially in capitalistic society. Like, people get greedy. So for you to completely like understand that aspect of the world and then choose to ignore it for this specific thing is like, what are you doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it applies to everything. Like, it's like people have a tendency to not want to admit when they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, especially when they're a position of authority. People expect them to know what the fuck they're talking about.
That's the worst, because not only have they like spent thousands of dollars getting that education, they spent the time doing it, and they've taught other people that this is the way. So if they're now to like falter and like just admit they're wrong, what happens to their ego? They can't let go. Like they're not able to like admit, right? So there's so much bundled up in that.
And the thing about the fear and the stress that comes with this is like, Nick said, there's a connection between your bad mental, emotional, spiritual health and your physical health, which is why I mean, there's countless fucking accounts of this. If people like that get diagnosed with cancer, get told they have a certain amount of time to live, those people seeing that, like, bro, I have nothing to, like, I'm about to die. Let me just do whatever the fuck I want for the last few moments I have alive. And then they actually start to like live stress-free and do whatever the fuck
they go into remission. Like,
they go into remission because there's a connection between, like, it's not separate. Like, what the way you are inside, mentally, spiritually, like, whatever affects your physical, and then vice versa. So they feed off each other, and then they usually like get a feedback loop going. So if you feel good, your body makes you feel good, makes you understand you're feeling good physically, and then you feel good mentally, and then it keeps going back and forth, like it feeds back. So when you're under stress, same thing. So how many people are getting sick, other sicknesses, from the fact that they're so stressed out and so scared of this shit? You know what I mean? Like, it's like we're constant, and that's the thing, we're losing our power.
That's definitely like one of my biggest problems with this whole thing, and the way that the establishment has approached it, because every single scientific study has to account for placebo. What does that tell you?
Exactly.
Placebo is a gold standard to seeing like the truth, right? Because it is the truth, it seems, right? Because if you give someone a sugar pill and tell them that it's a magic pill, it might work. What do you think is going to happen when you tell people there's a virus going around and it's deadly as fuck,
and that you're powerless,
and seeing your family is putting them at risk, and seeing like other people are dangerous? What do you think that's going to do to your head? Especially when the mass consciousness.
Niggas will believe in manifestation until it's not convenient for them. Like, dude, like, if you think your body cannot handle this shit once you get it, and you believe in it 100% with 100% certainty, when you get it, your body is not going to be able to fight it for the simple
and that's why I think it's so irresponsible. Like, it is irresponsible for the government and like the news to be pushing this every single day. Like, that is not responsible.
Every day.
It doesn't make any sense. Like there's so much science about like just the placebo itself, and like how the mind affects literally matter. Like the cell, the only God that the cell knows is the mind. You know?
Exactly.
And if you infect society with that thought on a mass scale, shit like this happens. You know, people, it's like it's mass hysteria. People can't tell that it's just pure emotion and fear, and they don't bother even, or they're not able to, like, you know, they're not able to look into it because of that fear.
A fair point Nick brought up is that government employees have been getting paid this entire time. They haven't lost their job.
Yeah. And you know what, man? I worked at a small business right before this. right?
Small
And my
business.
boss was telling me like all of his friends in the government are at home chilling. In fact, they have more time for leisure than before, and where they're like, yo, like come play tennis with me.
They're working
My
from
boss is
home.
like, yo, I can't, like I'm trying to keep my business alive, like I'm scraping by.
So everyone
This
who
stark
isn't a
contrast.
government person, everyone who owns a business, a small little business that isn't essential, has to fucking do the most amount of gymnastics to try to figure out how to keep their livelihood. You know what I mean? And it's like Canada. I have to give Canada like a little bit of a credit here. Like they've done the most they could to like help those people stay afloat, like to the CERB program and like EI and shit. But it's like, dude, now the government's going into debt. You know what I mean? Like it's not all good because there's bad that's gonna come out of it. So now, are you gonna keep giving niggas money and go deeper into debt, and then eventually it's gonna come back to bite you? It's like the thing for me is like, are we prioritizing short-term solutions over long-term solutions?
It's always been like that. For the past 100 years, that's how medicine is treated.
Because the short-term solutions usually ends up with long-term fucking terrible shit. When the long-term solutions are bad, maybe uncomfortable, not even bad, just uncomfortable in the short term, but get way better, sustainably better in the long term. And I don't know why people, the problem is like niggas don't even want to have that conversation. People just like literally obediently listen to what they're told to do and then follow it like to the T. And what's funny is not that much in the States. they're different beasts, but like lockdowns still, the rules still get broken, which is why like at first the fucking cases didn't go down that much. Like now they're starting to go down, but at first it wasn't, because dude, like if someone people are self-centered like naturally. So if someone really wants to hang out with their friends, they're gonna figure out a way. Most everyone I've known have broken the lockdowns rules somehow, including me. It's like how do we find a way to make it so that people don't have to fucking be stressed out or depressed because they can't go outside, but also have the least amount of deaths possible?
And you know what? Like there have been some considerations for that. I don't know if you've been following Roman Baber. He's an MPP. He's the guy who wrote the letter to Doug Ford, and then he got fired. Right? So there is like data on this, and the data says that the people at most risk are like in long-term care homes and the elderly with comorbidities. So what that implies is that for normal people, it's like, frankly, just not that dangerous, right? Anomalies here and there, but frankly, like it's just not as dangerous as people think it is.
Most people I know who've got it would just say like, yeah, it was bad. I couldn't taste anything, smell anything for a bit. It was terrible, but then, I'm good now.
Yeah.
And that's it. But yeah, I don't know, man. People will tell you insensitive because some people still die from it. Like it's so sentimental.
And that's the thing, right? It's like that line is being drawn because of like, well, it's emotional, right? Every death is very tragic. So that line is being blurred with actual facts, and they're not able to differentiate or even like willing to, right? Because it's tragic.
Yeah.
It's like if it affects you that much, like of course I understand that it's so heavy that you cannot bear it.
And I'm saying all this from the perspective of someone who's had like distant family people who I've heard died from getting this shit.
Same here.
I still think how I think about it, that like I get it, but at the same time,
it's not worth the detriment to society that it's causing.
Emotion, yeah, exactly. The short-term emotions should not outweigh like trying to think about what's the best possible long-term sustainable thing to do. I get it. It sucks, but like life sucks. You know what I mean?
And the thing is, like, I truly think that if the government wanted to solve this problem, it would have happened 10 months ago, frankly. Because remember when Trump was talking about hydrochloroquine, right? Hydrochloroquine and zinc, where he suggested like maybe let's just try it, because a lot of doctors in the States have have said that it's been effective because it's an anti-malarial drug, and it's been used in the past, and it's very safe. Like the harm that can be done is very minimal, but the good that it can cause is huge, right? It can cure someone. It can save someone from dying. So he said, let's try it. But what did Fauci do? Fauci said, oh, it doesn't have a double-blind, like it's not double-blind tested, so it's not science. Like you're gonna wait for a double-blind placebo study to save people's lives, like and then what do you know? In November or like a few months later, surprise, it's effective and it's being used now. People are saying, yeah, let's use it. In that 6 months, how many people have to die?
Exactly.
And not only that, but how many people are dying right now because that's not available in other countries or in a certain hospital? Like there are ways to mitigate this if there was integrity. But
and
frankly,
it's funny because the way Canada approached it is very interesting to me, where Canada allowed they locked down internally, but externally people could still go on could still take flights and go to other places. They would just have to quarantine. What's funny is the way the COVID variant got to Canada is from someone coming from the UK to Canada. Meanwhile, Canada itself is locked down internally. But the actual real lockdown that is supposed to happen, which is like stopping up the flights and shit, is because I don't know the country, but most people know. You might even know. There's a country that just like stopped in and out flights when it first came out, and then had a low lockdown, and then for a very good minute they did not have any cases. They were at zero for big number of time. And I think they started getting new cases, I think, once they reopened their like borders for people to come in. And then now they're locking it down again. I think on a lockdown perspective, stopping people from going in and out of the country is more important than
that just makes sense, right? It's just common sense.
But it's the provinces that are closed and it's not the country, which is very interesting. I don't know if it's because like money or
I think a few things probably. I think number one is trade, right? Import, export, and then also like essential stuff, like essential people.
Yeah,
who are like business or like family stuff.
But I think last thing that Nick said that was very nice. That was a good analogy. The one about the cars and the car accidents. So basically, cars would represent your health and the car accidents would represent like COVID. And it's basically like if a lot of people are driving cars and there are a lot of car accidents, we don't just say, let's just ban driving in the name of safety. What we do instead is we educate people on how to drive safely. We make cars safer. And we have ads like about when someone should or shouldn't drive, like, how we approach driving. It doesn't mean that car accidents are not going to keep happening. Because a part of life is like, dude, you're gonna die. Like death is,
and that's it's also not a perfect analogy, but
of course,
it makes sense to me,
Yeah,
and
it's like, dude,
and with the gaps that are in that analogy, I can fill it in. In my head, I can fill it in with certain things that can be done, certain measures that we can actually take, and like certain practical things or just like facts that are leading this whole thing to be so blown out of proportion where it doesn't have to be.
The logical thing is like, dude, if the lethality depends on how good your immune system is, how good or bad your immune system is, why wasn't the first thing we talked about was how to improve your immune system? Because there are ways.
Frankly, because they want to control you and they want to make you dependent on the government. They want dependence. They don't want independence. They don't want empowerment.
Imagine that, right? Like, dude, when we started to reopen again, because when we started to reopen again after the first lockdown from like April to whenever we reopened again, like in June, I think. Why? With going into that lockdown again, we know people are definitely going to be exposed to it and are going to get it for sure. No matter how many precautions they take, it could happen. Why wouldn't we tell people that like there are ways to strengthen your immune system so that if you do get it out of being outside and going to work or whatever, going to restaurants and shit, if you do get it, you have better chances of recovering. And by improving your immune, I've never heard this discussion except from like the very underground people pushed away
from
type.
From the fringes, man. And you know what's funny? These exact same people who will advocate for that, for empowerment, are being censored.
Because I'm not saying masks are wrong. I'm not saying lockdowns. I'm saying, dude, no matter what precautions you take, there is still a chance that you come across this thing. Like no matter how much you try to like run away from it until we find a way to eradicate the part of the virus itself from the air, you're good. Same with the flu. Like you're gonna get it. There's still a chance of you getting it. So what do you do is you empower yourself. You empower yourself.
Not avoidance.
Exactly. You don't run away from it. You make it so that if you have to face it, which there's a big chance that you do, you can. But what do we do? What's the approach people have taken is that we make people scared and we make people in a constant state of running away from it and seeing it as a big boss that they can't defeat. And then when they do get it, if that's how they see it, their body, that's what is being communicated to their entire body down to the immune system.
And during the first week,
it's just logical.
I had that exact same experience, right?
Yeah, y'all niggas was scared.
I went out. I was terrified for like the first month. And then that first week, I thought I had it. I thought I really had it. I didn't get tested or anything, but I truly thought I had it. And the first week, where like the cases were like maybe 10 people. There was no way I had it, right? I had been exposed to like 2 of my friends. Maybe there was no way I had it. And I got like my chest started to close up. My throat was like, oh my God, something's wrong with me. I did that to myself. There's,
that too. It's like the symptoms are so ambiguous because there are things, the things we literally have on a regular basis. Like if, I don't know, dust gets caught up in your nose or in your throat, you cough. Like sometimes you just cough. Like sometimes in the morning I wake up, I'll sneeze like 20 times in a row. But the thing is, now that we know that that's one of the symptoms of this big daddy monster that we can't defeat, now that when we start sneezing, we literally start to believe that this is what's going on in our bodies. And what do you think that communicates to the fucking body? Literally, what do you think that communicates?
I was having this conversation with someone from one of my breath for the class yesterday. And she's just saying like, wait, let me see if I can pull it up. I don't remember exactly. She's saying, being open and flexible affects the molecule. Okay, this is like kind of out of, it's just I'm quoting it, so the grammar isn't perfect. Being open and flexible, affecting the molecular and electrical, is the path of healing competence. So the way I understood it is like, it's almost as if the faith or like the surrender to whatever your belief system is opens the cell to let whatever that voltage, whatever that electrical impulse is into the cell, right? So at this point, it's like, it becomes so important to like really trust your heart and your values, because like the way I quoted it, sticking it to our values is so important for this, as the mirror minefield of the mind tends to distort things. So it's going to distort that electrical impulse, whatever it is you're receiving, right? Fear. You should be afraid of this virus. You're going to distort that impulse, and it's going to open up the cell and let that impulse in of fear, of dis-ease. You're not at ease. You're at dis-ease. It's going to let that into the cell, and you're going to experience that. Or
and it's going to become your reality.
Experience like healing voltages, right? Healing like love. And really true empowerment. And that will be your experience.
But you know what that's called? That's called hippie talk. Niggas call that hippie talk. Niggas call that new agey. Niggas call that rah-rah. Like the whole idea of empowering yourself as an individual is pushed on the side and called a bad label. The whole idea of you taking control of your own self, bro, of being self-sustainable, is called like hippie shit, rah-rah, new age bullshit conspiracy. I'm not saying
The
anything
author
about
of this book was like people didn't let him do his first studies because they thought they already knew, right? They thought they already knew. They didn't need to.
For audio people.
Yeah, so it's The Body Electric by Robert Becker. And he was essentially just looking at like if like healing is caused by electricity, the electrical impulses that our brain sends. And it's a whole like journey that he came across. But yes, we are electrical beings, right?
Duh.
So that will be the primary modality for your own healing. Yeah. And what is like, it's the information, electricity, whatever you want to call it, source. That information that you're letting into the cell is what's going to determine its expression. Period.
Yeah. Your subconscious can't tell what's real from what's not, which is why even though you're watching a fictional horror movie, you still get scared.
Yeah, your heart rate's going crazy.
Your heart rate still goes up because your subconscious doesn't know. So if you're communicating to your subconscious that you're fucking sick and that you are not strong and that you cannot survive XYZ, your subconscious basically just tries to like affirm everything you tell it. It affirms everything you tell it. So if that's what you say, your subconscious will be like, all right, cool. Like let's install that program into your being, and then that's what happens. But the whole idea, it's just appalling to me. Like it's literally appalling to me how just the idea of telling someone that like, yo, you can actually like strengthen yourself.
If you intend it or if you believe it. Like,
you know what I mean?
Like you can interpret it. You can interpret it to mean that, right?
What if the first solution wasn't to take a pill? What if I'm not pushing aside Western medicine. I'm just saying. You
know what? I'll do it for you. I think Western medicine is amazing for emergencies. Man, surgery, like car accidents. You need something fixed like instantly, like you're gushing blood.
You're good.
Western medicine will save you, period. But in terms of preventative measures and like actual like full systems thinking, it is trash, man. You cannot look into a microscope and like determine the solution. You have to you have to zoom out and figure out how can I approach this.
Preventative measures, yeah. Possible. Preventative measures, making sure it doesn't happen again. Mm-hmm. It's not about, it's like so many, it's like why so many, it's the thing about fucking how people by the time they get to fucking 50, 60 are taking 6, 7 different medications every day, because medication 1 that they started taking years ago has side effects that need medication 2 and 3. And then 2 and 3 have side effects that need medication 4 or 5. Mm-hmm. But then 4 or 5 doesn't interact with medication 1 properly. So you need to take 6, 7 so that you can, you know what I mean? So what you're doing every day. So what you're doing every day is taking a bunch of pills. And at a certain point, when you don't want to take those pills anymore, and it's been years, you realize, oh shit, my body can't even live without this anymore. Withdrawal. That is literally the thing with Jordan Peterson. The thing that happened with Jordan Peterson, where his body got so addicted and dependent on whatever the medication he was taking, that like it became like fatal for him to not take it. The withdrawal was so bad that it threatened his life, and he had to figure out how to like deal with recovering from it, rehab. And
I don't think like what people really wrap their head around that entire thing. I didn't until a few years ago. It's like, if you isolate something from nature and you like you just isolate a variable from nature and put it into your body doesn't recognize that as readily as if it was from the actual organic material, right? So an example would be vitamin C in an orange. If you extract vitamin C and just take vitamin C, your body's not going to recognize it as an orange, and it's not going to assimilate it the same way as it would an orange.
Because the orange itself has all the other things around the vitamin C that allow your body to take it in perfectly. Exactly. So when you get just the fucking isolated...
Imagine what you're doing when you like allopathically, like with your microscope, this is going to solve that problem. And then oh, surprise, it's like fucking Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, like, surprise, you have side effects from mutating or like trying to solve this one problem, right?
The thing is, every solution usually creates new problems. That's the way the world works. Because if we fix everything, there's no point to remaining alive, because we always have to be fixing something. The thing is, can we have a solution that creates the least amount of problems possible? And that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. on that note, actually, I also wrote, because like, and this is just like, take it for what it is. Not saying I'm making any implications, but is it fair to remain weak so that you can rely on the strong to continue protecting you?
I mean, it seems like that's how people want to live their lives. People don't have time. People don't have time to figure out how to, like, you know, it's like, like, I don't know, dude.
They don't make
I guess people are, what's the thing? And it's almost built into the system. People are too busy trying to figure out how to pay their bills to figure out how to strengthen their immune system, to take the time to even think about how to strengthen their immune system, because they're trying to figure out. It's like, it's so fear-based. It's actually, you know, it's like, if I don't pay my bills, I get the chance of being kicked out and evicted, or I lose my phone service, or I lose blah, 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 blah. So let me worry about that. But the whole time you're breathing from your mouth and you're breathing and you're shallow breathing, and you don't realize that in fucking maybe 10, 15 years, that's gonna like literally half your lifespan. And yeah,
and then they'll be like,
paid those bills.
I don't know I don't know how. I don't know why. Like,
you paid the bills, but at the cost of half of your life.
Yeah.
So what was it worth it? I'm not saying if it was or if it wasn't. I know which one I prefer, but I'm not even trying to push any ideology onto anyone, because honestly, you just choose to live however the fuck you want to live. But remember that there are consequences to everything you fucking do. So when you're out here not paying attention to fucking taking care of yourself, yeah, right? So when you fucking spending time not taking care of yourself because you want to get shit done now, but then later you can't even enjoy yourself because you put yourself on the side so much that now you're barely alive. Don't ask why.
Yeah. And it's like, wherever you look, you see this, right? It's like, life gets segmentalized. It's like you isolate one part of life for another, and that's why I think it's like the holistic approach is the way, because holistic by definition is whole.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It accounts for the entire circle. It doesn't isolate anything. So when you take this approach, I think that those consequences will be like greatly mitigated. And in fact, those consequences will end up being positive consequences, because you're accounting for the entire system.
Parting assignment, motherfuckers in the audience. Google search how to fucking strengthen your immune system. Just start there. Like, you're probably gonna find things that may be wrong or right, but just ask the question. And then your brain, because the world shapes itself to fit what you believe and what you ask and what you think about. Though you can't focus on everything at once, so your brain makes up for it by literally structuring the world around what you think and believe. So when you start to ask the question and think about it, the world will reshape itself in a different way, and you'll start to see it in a different way, and you'll start to maybe try to approach things differently. And immune system is not only something good for fighting COVID, but just for fighting everything, most things that could kill you naturally in life in general. Like, that's why people die when they get old, because their immune system literally just goes to shit. So when they get something that like a flu, that we can survive easily, their immune system isn't good enough because they're old, so they die. Yeah. So immune system. And the thing is, same with what's it called? Anti-age products. You take them before you're old. Like, when you're old and your fucking skin is old, taking anti-age is not going to do anything, because you didn't take it back when you had the face you wanted to keep. I'm not saying I'm not for or against. I'm just using the analogy because I know you probably have your own thoughts about that. But it's about doing it now. You take care of yourself now.
And on that note, with the segmentalization, it's like I've discussed the whole COVID thing and like the death rates with some friends, and I bring up the fact that like annual death rate from heart disease alone in the States is 600,000. So that's more than COVID.
They eat McDonald's all the time.
That's more than COVID this year. So I'm thinking like, hey, like, wouldn't it make sense that the people dying from COVID, there's overlap because these people have comorbidities, right? Most deaths are comorbidities for COVID. So when this overlaps, you have to start thinking, how many of these people were already compromised?
Right?
Were like already, frankly, on their way out. And you have to like scale it. Like, what is the appropriate measure now? Like, you have this factor and you have knowledge of this that was already existing. How much of this is contributing to this? And some people don't think that exists. Like, oh, that's heart disease. That's not related to COVID. How's it not related to COVID? That's someone's immune system that is compromised. That is directly related to COVID. And that is directly related to this whole Western allopathic approach of medicine, where food should be medicine, but it's not. Medicine is medicine. And people take it. People got to take it 2 times a day, fucking for like how many days a week, like, you know?
Food's coming with like 20 chemicals to keep the food good as long as possible so that niggas don't lose as money from the food not being sold. So then they put a bunch of preservatives in it, but then how does your body react to these preservatives? Is it evolved enough to be able to fucking handle them? Is it spending most of its time trying to make up for those preservatives instead of like, you know, the other shit that it's supposed to be doing? And then now when you get a fucking illness, can your body handle it because it was too busy doing other shit, trying to get used to preservatives that you eat every day? Like, as you're sick, you're eating food that has preservatives in it, so your body's confused.
Becoming obesity still exists.
It's like, niggas think evolution happens in 5 years. Like, your body's still the same body it was like thousands of years ago. It's not evolved enough for preservatives.
Definitely not. It's not the way we're supposed to be assimilating information. And I was going to say, like, you know how like local is, people would like supporting local, right?
Yeah.
Support local. It's like, do it. So for me, that's just like, if you simplify it, it's like, know where what you're consuming is coming from. Know where it's coming from. Know who makes it. And know why they make it. All of that should be a massive factor in everything you consume. So let's start with food. Where's our food coming from? It's coming from fucking China. It's like, it's been in a plane. It's been through a whole process for it to get on your plate. So who made it at the end of the day? You don't know, right? Who's making, I don't know, let's go straight to medicine. Who's making your medicine? Pfizer, Moderna. Do they have lawsuits against them? Answer is yes. And like, how can you trust these people to be like making a vaccine that is brand new? mRNA has never been done before. How are you going to be trusting these people to make that and put that into your bloodstream? Who the fuck knows what it's going to do? Like, there are doctors.
We don't know.
There are anti-vax vaccine advocates that have like taken this apart and actually explained it. I encourage everyone to like dig deeper, because frankly, like I've said frankly so much, but this little hour and a half audio bite, whatever, is not going to answer all your questions. I've been at this for 10 months since, you know, like, and I'm still digging.
Yeah. All right. We're just under an hour, so let's end it there. I want to keep this under an hour. No, listen, man. Think for your fucking self, nigga. Find your informations. God damn it.
And I will say, I want to add one more thing. I was just doing research yesterday, like randomly. I was talking to you and Adam about this just before, about like the frequency, right? The resonant frequency device that cures cancer. Royal Raymond Rife. And for the past few days, I've also been looking at Victor Schauberger and another name that I forgot. But these scientists have been like, they were cutting edge. They were 100 years ahead of their time. No one understood them, and the science completely like blew apart the current mainstream dogma. So what happened? Oh, you have a way to make free energy and cure cancer? Not on my watch. We're not going to let you make that device. We're not going to let you implement it into the mainstream, right? It's like whoever wins the war tells history. And these people have so much control and power that they won't let the truth out. Or at least it's going to be distorted by the time it's out. So what I would tell you is that don't trust Google, don't trust the first Google search, because often it's being controlled by those exact same people that suppress the truth. Use DuckDuckGo or something. But I would say find someone that you trust that speaks directly to your heart, not oh, this many cases a day, right? Blah blah blah. Find someone that speaks directly to your heart. For me, that's been Paul Chek, Aubrey Marcus, right? Mostly holistic health practitioners.
Yeah.
And find someone that you truly trust and still ask questions, still doubt them.
Yeah.
But those people are your best sources for information that is reliable, in my opinion.
Question everything.
It goes through that filter, right? So that's what I would say.
Question everything. Question yourself. Question authority. Question even the people you think are right. Question everything. Question everything, because everything's always changing.
The source of your information is the most important thing, especially like with information age. So it's very easy to manipulate people.
The essence of the entire fucking universe is impermanence. Everything is always changing. Truths are always changing. So if you get too attached to something, by the time it's been a week since you've accepted it as your truth, there's probably been some sort of change in it. It's probably evolved or devolved somehow. Question everything. Don't get too caught up with your fucking beliefs about how the world works, because that's how you suffer. All right, peace.
And ask questions. Ask the right question. That will lead you. There is no such thing as a stupid question, for sure, right? But the trajectory of that question will lead you two different ways, or like many different degrees. But like to simplify that,
ask questions ask questions that are the opposite of the questions you've asked. Like always go for the contradictory argument. Like never like. What are Republicans saying? What are Democrats also saying? You don't hear Republicans agree with them and then stay there. You have to also see what the Democrats are saying and then see it without the fucking filter of the bias.
And Victor Schauberger, the water wizard, he said the truth is often 180 degrees opposite to what like is being perpetuated by the mainstream. So just look the other way. 180 degrees turn.
It's just useful. I don't know, man.
Yeah, no,
do whatever the fuck you want. I would do whatever the fuck I want.
Explosion.
We'll see who's right in 70 years. Because I could be healthy as shit and still get killed by a car. So who knows? All right. Thank you for listening and shit. Love you. You want to say anything else? Give us autoimmune strengthening devices.
No, don't give us autoimmune conditions. I don't want autoimmune.
Wow, we kept it under just